Bullying Backfires. The inspiring 12-year-old girl exposes a hidden hero, her Delta Force father. Each day, Emma stepped into the stark fluorescent lights of the school hallway, anxiety knotting in her stomach. She could hear the whispers, the snickers, not just about her love for robotics or science, but about how she didn't fit in. "Weirdo," they'd say, and she tried to ignore it. But those words drummed against her heart, a relentless taunt echoing in her mind. At home, she had her father Mike, a former Delta Force operative, but he was often lost in his own thoughts, an impenetrable wall shadowed by his past. Emma longed for more. She needed a connection, a guiding hand to help her navigate not just the complexities of building drones and robots in her garage, but also the turbulent waters of teenage cruelty. That chilly autumn afternoon, spinning leaves swirling around like the chaos in her mind, a fire ignited within her. Enough was enough. Her hands trembled with a mix of fear and determination as she plotted her revenge not in a harsh way, but with creativity. Making clever pranks to expose her bullies, their behavior laid bare for all to see. Yet, as she rummaged through old boxes in the attic looking for inspiration, she stumbled upon relics of her father's forgotten past. Medals gleamed against the dusty old photographs, a hero in the making, someone who faced danger every day to save lives. Her heart raced with admiration but conflicted emotions. Why had her father never spoken of this? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As the days dragged on, the pressure mounted. This wasn't just about her. She felt tethered to her father's legacy, something she yearned to honor. But at what cost? Revealing his truth during her science fair presentation might expose a vulnerability he had buried deep. But it offered the prospect of repairing their fractured bond. Would he see it as her way of reaching out, or as an intrusive act that pulled them further apart? Emma feared the weight of her choice, dreading the possibility of further estrangement. Desperation clawed at her. What if showing the world the hero her father was would push him further into solitude? Or worse, what if he was ashamed of that past? Whispers of support trickled in from the corners of the school, a small flicker of alliance from classmates who once stood silent. Yet the bullying twisted like a tightening noose around her worries. The uproar of laughter would soon rise again as she felt eyes on her everywhere. Emma stood at a crossroad, caught between two worlds, a life that loomed large with possibility and the gnawing fear of isolation. As the day of the science fair drew near, she caught sight of her father in the audience, his expression a mix of apprehension and yearning. In that moment, everything surged within her, a storm of emotion she could no longer contain. Could she muster the courage to unveil her father's hidden heroism and risk their tenuous relationship? Or would her attempt to claim space in this world only drive them further apart? Emma took a deep breath, anxiety crashing over her like a wave as the lights dimmed and the moment of truth approached. The spotlight cut through the dimness like a knife, illuminating the stage where Emma stood trembling. Her heart pounded in her chest, drowning out the ambient chatter of the crowd. This was not just another science fair to her, it was a chance to reveal the truth about her father, the hero she had reverently discovered in their attic. A truth that could either mend their relationship or fray it beyond repair. As she glanced at him in the audience, she saw a complex tapestry of pride and apprehension etched on his face. The weight of his unspoken past hung heavily in the air, wrapping around Emma like a cloak. Where others might find comfort in the audience, she felt exposed, as if every eye was not just watching her but dissecting her very essence. She had rehearsed endlessly, but the amalgamation of fear and determination left her paralyzed momentarily, questioning whether she could genuinely go through with this. She cleared her throat, the microphone sending a slight feedback howl through the auditorium, prompting a ripple of chuckles from the audience that quickly morphed into silence as she steadied herself. "Hello, everyone." Her voice trembled as she began. "Today, I'm presenting not just my project on robotics, but also something I uncovered about someone critically important to me. My father." A dry knot formed in her throat as she sensed a collective stirring of curiosity. It was a risk, but her need to be seen eclipsed the fear of judgment, both from her peers and from her father. Suddenly the memories of the taunts flooded back. Each insult had hammered in a sense of alienation. And yet, here she stood, preparing to bare her soul, hoping not only to expose her father's heroism, but to reclaim her own narrative. "Those medals you saw in my attic belonged to him," Emma continued, her voice more resolute this time, as she showcased images projected behind her, depicting her father in action. "He's not just Mike. He's a former Delta Force operator, and his bravery saved countless lives." A tremor coursed through the audience, a mix of shock and admiration. She had managed to captivate them, to peel away the layers of misconception that had clung to her for years. Her gaze flickered briefly to her father, and for a heartbeat she could see the walls he'd built around himself beginning to crack. It was then Emma realized that this was not merely an exposé. It was an invitation to him, a thin thread connecting their broken worlds. As she recounted his stories, a strange confidence erupted within her. Each tale of valor and loyalty breathed life into both of them. She connected the dots, emphasizing how bravery wasn't simply about physical might. It was about confronting your fears and vulnerabilities, much like her own journey against bullying. In that moment, she wasn't just showcasing her father, she was channeling her own growth, her evolution from a bullied girl, wary of judgment, into a fierce advocate for honor. When she finished, a wave of applause erupted, but for Emma it felt muted. She sought her father's eyes, desperate for validation. Slowly he rose, tears glimmering in his eyes, clapping with a fervor that seemed to explode from deep within. But then something shifted. A flicker of something darker crossed his features, something unsettling, as if the truth she unveiled had resurrected not just pride, but buried ghosts. What had she awakened within him? Had she inadvertently stirred an old wound, something he wasn't ready to confront? Emma felt the ground shift beneath her, her exhilaration replaced by dread as she realized that the real battle was just beginning. How would this revelation reshape their relationship when the applause faded? The inevitable reckoning loomed closer as she faced her father, now standing amidst the applause. Did she gain a connection with him, or unearth an abyss that might swallow them both? Emma's heart raced as the audience began to dissipate, and the silence between her and her father thickened, laden with unspoken words and unresolved tension. A profound new journey awaited, and with it came the uncertainty of their futures. She had unveiled her father, but at what cost? The moment of truth had arrived. Now it was time to confront the shadows. The applause gradually faded, but the air was still thick with tension. Emma's mind busied itself, replaying the moments that had just transpired. She had fought tooth and nail to stand up and be heard, and although the audience had responded with admiration, it felt as if something more profound was unraveling in the heart of the hall. The warmth of commendation faded into a cold reality. The deeper connection she yearned for with her father was on the precipice, shrouded in uncertainty. Her father approached with cautious steps, his expression a whirlwind of emotions. A sense of dread coiled in her stomach as she braced herself for the unknown. Did he feel pride in her bravery, or was he consumed by the shadows of a past he had kept tucked away? As he neared, Emma took a deep breath, willing herself to maintain eye contact, despite the fluttering anxiety beneath her skin. "Emma," he began, and for a moment it felt like the room had shrunk to just the two of them. I didn't know you. I never wanted you to find out." The admission hung in the air like a haunting melody, filled with both regret and a hint of relief. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" Emma's voice was firmer than she felt. Questions rushed in, fueled by hurt and confusion. "You were a hero, Dad. Why hide it?" His gaze shifted away, the flicker of shame illuminating the depths of his expression. "I wanted you to have a normal life. I thought keeping that part of me buried would protect you. I didn't want you to carry the weight of my past." As he spoke, Emma felt an unexpected surge of empathy mixed with frustration. The very decision he had made to shield her now seemed to trap them both in silence, a silence that echoed with unexpressed pain. In trying to protect her, had he constrained her from understanding him? "Normal," Emma scoffed softly, the irony weighing on her tongue. "Normal never existed for us." Each word felt liberating, a step toward reclaiming her voice and unveiling the layers of her father's life that formed the very foundation of her existence. The vulnerability in her tone stunned him. He looked at her, each second brimming with the weight of years unshared. "You're right," he admitted, defeat lacing his voice. "But I thought that by showing you my medals, you'd have something to feel proud of, rather than the darkness I've lived through." Understanding stirred within Emma, a delicate yet powerful recognition of how deeply their lives were intertwined. Beneath his hardened exterior lay battles fought not just on a foreign land, but within the depths of his very soul. It made her grasp her own struggles with a newfound clarity, enabling her to see the shared scars that both of them bore from unacknowledged fears. "We both have battles, Dad," she said, her voice steadier now. "Whether it's hiding or revealing our pasts, it doesn't change who we are. Maybe we can fight them together." For the first time, it felt as though a bridge was slowly being built, where there had only been a chasm. His eyes softened, yet he hesitated, uncertainty still laced in his features. Could he step out of the darkness into the light she was offering? As he opened his mouth to respond, the auditorium hummed with life again, a throng of students and parents shuffling by, erasing the intimate moment they had clung to for dear life. "Emma," he began, but the words fell short, swallowed by the cacophony around them. She nodded in understanding, realizing that while their journey had just begun, the path ahead would require patience and resolve. They were neither heroes nor villains, but simply two people trying to forge a connection amid a past marred by silence. While a flicker of hope sparked within her, the shadows of the unknown still loomed large. What would it take for them to truly face their fears together? Would her revelations bring healing or another layer of complexity to their strained relationship? Emma turned away from the fading applause, heart racing anew as she pondered the path that lay ahead, with intersections of confrontation and discovery beckoning her forward. It was not merely about revealing forgotten histories, it was about building a future resilient enough to withstand the revelations yet to come. As she stepped forward, determination swelling within, she knew they were far from done. A labyrinth of emotions and experiences awaited. And now it was time to confront those unbearable shadows before they consumed them both. What truths remained unspoken, waiting to be faced head-on? The weight of silence pressed heavily on Emma as she stepped away from her father's uncertain gaze. The noise of the auditorium faded into a dull background hum, leaving her alone with a whirlwind of emotions. She moved through the throng of students and parents, her heart pounding with the dual thrill of victory and dread. How do you navigate a newfound understanding of someone you had seen as a hero, only to discover the man beneath the medals was still grappling with his own demons? She found herself outside, the soft coolness of the evening breeze brushing against her face, refreshing yet disconcerting. It was time to talk to him again, to confront the shadows they both harbored. But how could she articulate the emotions swirling within her? Words danced on her tongue, battling each other for release. Instead of choosing one to express, she let a deep breath manifest itself into action, digging her heels into the ground to steady herself. "Dad!" she called, looking back towards the doors as her father emerged, searching for her in the chaotic crowd. His face, lined with concern, made Emma's heart ache. He wore the weight of the revelations she had unearthed, and yet she couldn't ignore the flicker of hope buried in his gaze. It signaled a readiness for dialogue, for healing, but could she take him into the chasm of her own struggle? "Can we talk?" she said, her voice laced with vulnerability as she stepped toward him. There was no grand proclamation to be made, just the raw honesty that soaked the air between them. He nodded, the tension in his shoulders easing, if only slightly. They drifted to a quieter corner away from the crowd. The golden light of the setting sun cast warm hues on their faces, but shadows still lurked around the edges, a stark reminder of the conversation they were on the brink of. "Emma, he began, but she held up a hand, feeling the need to anchor their exchange with her own thoughts first. They had wrestled so long in silence. It was her time to speak. "Dad, standing up there, sharing my story, it made me realize how much I've hidden from you, too." Emma hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "I've been pretending that my feelings don't matter, thinking that I can just push through everything alone." He regarded her intently, the air thick with unasked questions. "It's okay to share your struggles. I've shielded you from my past because I thought it would make things easier. But it doesn't. It only creates distance." "I know," she replied, swallowing the lump in her throat. "It's just, there's so much pressure to be perfect, to be strong, and not to want to be vulnerable, even with you." A tear slipped down her cheek, and she wiped it away, feeling the warm sting of embarrassment grip her. His expression softened as he took a hesitant step closer. "You don't have to be perfect. I've been battling my past for so long, and it's okay if you're struggling too. We can be flawed together." The sincerity in his voice broke through the barricade of her defense. While his words were simple, they resonated profoundly within her. A new realization filled the space between them. They could be allies rather than shadows lurking in each other's fears. "Do you really mean that?" she asked, feeling the tremors of hope swirling again, fear of rejection creeping in with each word. "Absolutely," he said with conviction. And in that moment, something shifted. Their eyes locked, and the fractured pieces of their connection began to bond together. "I want to face these battles together, Dad," she affirmed, her voice steadying with each syllable. "Can we share our stories more openly? It might be hard, but maybe we can help each other heal." As her proposition hung in the air, her father's features flickered with a blend of fear and resolve. It was a commitment neither of them had prepared for, yet it felt like the only path forward. There was a chance they could navigate this labyrinth together, but would either of them have the courage to face the raw truths that lay buried in their hearts? And just as clarity began to dawn on their fragile truce, the reminder of unacknowledged pain loomed large in Emma's mind. What if not all shadows could be dispelled by understanding? What if some truths threatened to unravel everything they had just begun to build? With a new determination fueling her, Emma understood that the next step required more than just conversation. It demanded vulnerability and a willingness to confront the deep-seated issues they had been avoiding. Could they both push through the fear of exposing real scars to emerge anew? The path ahead promised challenges that would test their resolve and perhaps unveil the hidden strengths they'd long overlooked. As they stood together, the sun dipping below the horizon, Emma felt the electric charge of possibility. What awaited them on this uncharted road, with old wounds yet to be examined? Only time would tell where their journey would lead. The air between Emma and her father was charged, each word lingering like whispered spells in the fading light. As they stood side by side, Emma could sense that this was the moment where everything could reshape, a fragile foundation built on courage and mutual honesty. Yet doubts clawed at her mind, echoing warnings about the potential fallout. What if they ventured too deep into each other's hurt and stumbled on something too raw to handle? "Let's start with something simple then," Emma said, taking a step back from the intensity buzzing around them, trying to anchor their conversation in more manageable territory. "What's something you've never told me? What's been your hardest struggle?" Her father's gaze faltered for a tiny moment, a flash of vulnerability cutting through the armor he wore. It was both frightening and liberating to witness. "Well, I've hidden a lot. More than you can imagine," he began, his voice thick with memories. "I used to think that being strong meant not showing any weakness, but that strength made me feel so isolated." His admission sent tremors through Emma's heart. She thought about her own pretense of unshakable strength, the masks she wore in various corners of her life, at school, in friendships, even at family gatherings. Why had she felt compelled to imitate the very walls he built around himself? "Isolation," she echoed, the word clinging heavily to her tongue. "It's like a prison, isn't it? I feel that way sometimes too." Emma inhaled sharply. The doors of catharsis were opening, and she had to decide whether to step inside. "I never shared how much bullying has affected me. I kept trying to act like it didn't hurt, but it does. It feels like the rest of my life is painted over a canvas of that pain now." Her father's expression morphed to empathy, his eyes reflecting the weight of her vulnerability. "You're strong for even recognizing that. It took me years to confront my own weaknesses, but we can't fight our battles alone, Emma. Not anymore." His words ignited a flicker of rebellion within her. It was time. She wouldn't just confront her past, but also name it. "So what's stopping us from showing the world our scars? Why do we hide our struggles? It's really hard to keep pretending." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Fear of being judged, fear of being seen as weak. Each of us deals with it differently, but we can begin changing that together." Emma felt an unexpected chill at the acknowledgement of that fear. What if our truths break whatever image we've created? She thought of the pressure of perfection, of expectations to succeed without showing any sign of needing help. Perhaps this is less about breaking Emma and more about rebuilding. Strong people aren't those who have no scars, but those who choose to wear them as a badge of honor. His insight echoed through her, unearthing pieces of wisdom she hadn't considered. The allure of vulnerability whispered promises of connection, forging new bonds tethered to authenticity. But that came with its own set of risks. "I want to rebuild," she said, her voice now firm. "But I'm scared. What if the confrontation with our truth reveals something we can't fix?" The sky deepened to shades of twilight, and they remained caught in the shifting shadows of their confessions. Emma's heart raced, balancing on the edge of discovery and dread. The evening felt laden with possibilities. What if speaking about their fears and scars unleashed strength they never knew existed? The thought invigorated her. But could they truly confront the formidable shadows of their pasts together? Emma turned toward her father, her resolve crystallizing. It wasn't just about sharing stories anymore. It was about finding a path forward that would shatter the isolation and push them both towards a shared healing experience. "Let's lay our truths on the table and then let's see where we go from there," she suggested, her tone taking on an unshakable quality. "I want to face whatever shadows are in my life. And Dad, if you're willing, I want to face them with you." As he nodded in agreement, Emma couldn't help but feel the stirrings of a storm brewing. The weight of the conversation was not just a means to connect, it was a declaration of war against the very struggles that had long dictated their lives. But as they took those first steps into vulnerability and honesty, Emma sensed another challenge loomed just ahead. What if the process of unveiling their truths unearthed even darker dimensions of their pasts, challenges neither was truly prepared to tackle? The horizon was no longer a distant dream, but a battleground waiting to be explored, with unclaimed victories hanging above them. Emma's heart thrummed, both anxious and electrified. A whisper of determination surged within her. They would dive deeper into these struggles, because if they didn't confront their demons now, what were they waiting for? Emma stood still, each word shared between her and her father echoing in her mind like a drumbeat. They had peeled back layers of hurt, yet, in that moment of fragile openness, a renewed sense of purpose surged within her. A combination of fear and fascination twisted together in her gut. This deeper exploration could promise freedom, but it could also unveil ancient scars that screamed with resentment. "Are you ready to delve deeper?" her father asked, breaking the silence that wrapped around them. His voice was steady, but she sensed an undercurrent of apprehension. It was clear this wasn't just about facing her own pain anymore. This was a dual voyage into uncharted emotional territory. "Yes," Emma breathed, confidence rising from the ashes of her uncertainty. It wasn't just her healing she desired, it was the restoration of the bond with her father. She realized they shared a common thread of resilience tethered by the challenges they'd both faced in silence. "What if we each write a letter?" she proposed suddenly, her ideas crystallizing. "A letter addressing our fears, the things that have haunted us, maybe even the regrets. Then we can share them." His brow furrowed slightly, and Emma could almost see the gears turning in his head. "Writing it out makes it feel real. And once we put those feelings on paper, sharing them could be an even bigger leap," he finally replied, visibly contemplating the suggestion's gravity. "That's a brave idea." An electric thrill pulsed through her, a sense of urgency enveloping them both. They could capture their struggles as tangible entities, laying their vulnerabilities bare before each other and perhaps the world. For Emma, the prospect of holding her parental figure accountable for his pain ignited determination within her. "Okay, let's commit to it tonight. We'll write, then share, then decide what our next move will be. But Dad, I really want you to think about admitting what you've kept hidden," she pressed. This was her challenge to him, to let go of the heavy burdens he carried alone. He nodded, but the flicker of hesitation in his gaze revealed that darkness gripped him tightly. "That's the hardest part, Emma. The fear of judgment is strong. What if revealing my past makes you see me differently?" Emma felt the swell of her own fear responding, but she didn't allow it to surface. But what if it makes us stronger? What if the things we've buried are the very seeds of strength? I've been carrying my pain solo for too long, just like you. The exchange swirled around them, merging their sentiments into a unified strength. The night deepened further, casting a veil over their surroundings, yet Emma felt illuminated by newfound possibilities. The act of writing was an offering, a vessel where emotion could morph into something transformative and manageable, a conduit for growth. When they retreated to their rooms, Emma's fingers hovered over her notebook. She felt a powerful wave of inspiration swelling. Sure, fear stung at the edges of her consciousness, but like a flame flickering against the wind, it could either snuff out her ambitions or spark a greater fire within. The task ahead was daunting. It required brutal honesty. Emma realized that laying bare her struggles required acknowledgement of every wound she bore. The masks she donned to face the world would have to be set aside. As the pen glided across the page, her heart raced with each written word. She unearthed the essence of her battles with bullying, the moments she'd felt powerless and unseen. This was her moment to reclaim her narrative. Then for a moment she paused, questions simmering. What truths would her father uncover on his own page? What would he reveal about his experiences, not just as her father, but as a man shaped by failure and triumph? Would their past torments connect them more deeply, or risk splintering their budding relationship? With determination, Emma refocused on her writing, the ink flowing with urgency and clarity. She laid out her truths, fully aware that this exchange would reshape the essence of not just their relationship, but their future selves. As sleep began to claim her, Emma's thoughts danced wildly, spiraling around possibilities. The letters felt like promises of change, but trusting that outcome required boldness neither had yet demonstrated. In the dimly lit stillness of the house, she couldn't ignore the brewing storm. How would their pasts, now intertwined, influence their shared journey going forward? What truths would ultimately emerge from this fearless confrontation? The anticipation hung heavy, a gravitational pull towards the next moment, a world of uncertainty waiting on the other side of their revelations. Emma drifted into a deep sleep. The weight of her words nestled safely in her heart, bracing herself for whatever would come next. Emma awoke to the soft glow of morning sunlight filtering through her window, casting gentle patterns on the walls. The remnants of the previous night's emotions were still palpable, a fragile layer woven into her thoughts. She rubbed her eyes, feeling both anticipation and trepidation about the letters waiting for her to be transformed into spoken truths. Sitting on the edge of her bed, she took a deep breath, summoning the courage she had sensed just before sleep overtook her. The fear lingered, fluttering like a nervous bird in her chest, yet she also felt something new, a kindling of hope. Today could mark a profound shift not only in her own life, but in her relationship with her father. She dressed quickly, the familiar routine grounding her in a comforting normalcy. As she descended the staircase, she heard her father in the kitchen, the clinks and clatters blending into a comforting rhythm. With each step, Emma could feel the weight of her words gathering momentum within her. Today, they couldn't remain locked on the page. "Good morning," her father greeted, a hint of warmth in his tone. He flashed her a smile, though it didn't reach his eyes completely. Still, Emma felt encouraged by his effort. "Morning? Ready to share?" she asked, her heart racing at the thought of unveiling their experiences. He nodded slowly, the corners of his mouth tightening. They both knew that today was a step into the unknown, a sound deeper than both expected. Emma slid into a chair at the kitchen table, pushing her notebook toward him. The act felt monumentally significant. It was as if she was offering him a key to a door marked vulnerability. "I want you to read it first," she said, feeling an unusual intensity in her voice. After a brief pause, he took her notebook, flipping it open as his expression turned serious. With a steady breath, he began to read, the lines of her story unfolding in front of his eyes and revealing pieces of her she had kept hidden even from him. Emma observed him, searching for signs of understanding or discomfort as he absorbed her truths. Each passing moment felt surreal, her heart sinking with the ink coursing across the page. She saw his brow furrow as he read the part about the bullying. He swallowed hard, shifting in his seat. "I didn't know you felt this way," he finally said, looking up. The softness in his gaze revealed something Emma had longed to see, a glimmer of empathy that hinted at their shared experience of being misunderstood. "There's so much I've carried, Dad. Just like you," she replied, fearlessly tapping into her rising conviction. "I want to hear your story too. I'm ready for the truth." He nodded, visibly moved, and handed the notebook back. "I've been avoiding my own truths for a long time," he admitted, his voice low. "Wrestling with my past feels like staring at a mountain I'm not sure I can climb." The analogy resonated with her. They both stood at the base of their own mountains, emotions swirling like rising wind around them. As she spoke, Emma realized she had become an agent of change, not just for herself, but for her father too. "Maybe we can climb together," she responded, her words ignited by an instinctual understanding. "You don't have to face anything alone anymore." With renewed resolve, her father took a deep breath, narrowing his eyes as he prepared to confront his own shadows. "I'll try," he said slowly, his voice gaining a stronger foothold. As he settled into his thoughts, Emma felt the urgency rise again. She glanced at her notebook, realizing her letter was the beginning of something larger, a path toward their healing. They had already made strides, and the hardest part was still to come. What if they could not only share their histories, but also help each other confront their fears? What if honesty did indeed lead to freedom? With each question, buried layers of hope unfurled. "Can we tackle this together?" he asked, vulnerability creeping into his tone. "Can we start by facing things we've always kept hidden?" Emma felt the stakes heighten. It was time to expose the sense of fragility masked by their shared silence. Maybe this was the point where the past could spark something new, rekindling a bond that had faltered. "Absolutely," Emma replied. "Let's face it together." With a shared nod, the journey towards their collective truths was paved, but with it came the chilling uncertainty of what their revelations might entail. The kitchen felt charged as they began the emotional excavation, ready to reveal the hidden truths they'd shielded from each other for so long. Emma's heart thundered with exhilaration and dread as the dialogue shifted to potentially unearthing triggers. What would they discover about one another, and how would it reshape the identity of their family moving forward? The moment of reckoning loomed close, prompting Emma to question whether they were truly ready for everything that lay ahead. Her pulse quickened as she braced herself for the unknown, a gathering storm of revelations ready to break. The silence in the kitchen grew heavy, a palpable tension surrounding them as both Emma and her father prepared themselves for the first hurdle in their shared exploration. The afternoon light poured through the window, but inside, the air felt thick with unspoken fears and painful memories. Emma leaned forward, resting her elbows on the table, her notebook swirling with thoughts of courage and vulnerability. "Do you remember the time I tried out for the soccer team and didn't make it?" she asked, her tone infused with sincerity. It felt right to start there, a seemingly simple event that belied the deeper insecurities it had stirred within her. Her father looked up, brows slightly furrowed. "Of course, you were devastated." "What you didn't see, Dad, was how that moment made me feel invisible. Everyone else was getting praise, and I just faded into the background. It's like I couldn't even find the words to express how much it hurt." Emma felt the walls closing in, the urgency building within her. "But I also didn't want you to feel guilty. You were always trying your best to support me." For a moment, her father's gaze softened, a flicker of recognition passing through his eyes. "I never wanted to let you down. I thought you needed me to be strong and unaffected." "That's just it," Emma pressed on, her voice gaining strength. "We both thought we had to hide how we felt. I just want to understand you, to know about your own struggles." He leaned back in his chair, folding his arms as he contemplated her words. Emma could sense his internal battle. It was like watching someone wrestling with an invisible force. Was he prepared to disclose memories festering beneath years of silence? After what felt like an eternity, her father sighed deeply. "When I was younger, I faced my own bullying," he finally confessed. His voice cracked slightly, and Emma's heart clenched. "I was different. My dad was a soldier, and I often felt out of place. Those kids, I didn't just get bullied, I got ridiculed. I buried that, Emma. I never wanted you to feel that kind of pain, so I thought shielding you was the best thing to do." A cascade of thoughts rushed through Emma. Here was the man who had shielded her from the world, revealing layers she never knew existed. "You were just a kid too. You could have talked about it." "I didn't know how to," he admitted, the corners of his mouth tightening. I thought showing weakness would make me less of a man. It felt like admitting defeat." His expression wrestled with shame, and it struck Emma that the vulnerability she sought was also the very essence of what he had hidden for decades. "Defeating the past isn't about weakness," she asserted, her voice steady, propelling her father toward a place of enlightenment. "It takes so much strength to face it." He studied her, realization dawning like light breaking through the clouds. Maybe I've used that facade of strength as a way to shield us both. I thought I was protecting you from my struggles, but perhaps I was only burying them deeper." Facing the reality of his words, Emma pondered the implications of his admission. They had both been on opposite sides of an unspoken war, battling the psychological scars that shaped their identities. This moment was a pivot, a fracture in an old cycle. "Can we work on this together?" she offered softly, her resolve bolstered by the sense of partnership swelling between them. "I want to try, Emma," he nodded, sincerity sparkling in his eyes, "but I'll need your help. I don't know how to let go of this past of mine." Emma felt renewed vigor surge within her. Sometimes the hardest battles were not just against the external pressures of life, but against the narratives woven into their very souls. They had begun to chart a course toward not just understanding, but redefining their identities. As they ventured deeper into the conversation, Emma realized that it wasn't just about unearthing their pain, but transforming it into a shared blueprint for healing. Their stories, hauntingly parallel, offered a chance to rewrite their family legacy, one truth at a time. A sudden thought struck Emma, sending a shiver down her spine. If they could confront their fears together, would those truths eventually lead them to a revelation even more profound? Could other elements of their lives be uncovered along this journey that might change everything they thought they knew about being a family? With the air charged, Emma felt the spark of discovery ignite once again. The next step had to be more than just words. They had to face the hearts behind their fears and challenge the narratives that had so long controlled their lives. "Let's bring it all out into the open," Emma suggested, a wild hope racing through her. "Let's confront everything, our failures, our fears. I think it's time for both of us to climb this mountain." As the weight of her proposition lingered in the air, a question bubbled to the surface. Would their shared courage be enough to bulldoze through the walls built over years? Emma's pulse quickened in anticipation of the impending truths, now more urgent than ever. How deep did their layers truly go? The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the kitchen as Emma's words hung between them, charged with potential and raw vulnerability. The moment felt fragile, like glass on the verge of shattering. As her father stared at her, the tension in his features shifted subtly, contours of anxiety giving way to a glimmer of determination. "What exactly do you want to confront?" he asked, his voice a cautious blend of invitation and trepidation. Emma took a deep breath, feeling as though she stood on a precipice. Everything, the moments we've swept under the rug, the things we've never talked about, those dark corners of our lives might hold answers we've both been searching for. She could see him bracing himself for a dive into the deep end of their shared past. "Where do we start?" he asked, a tremor in his voice that she couldn't ignore. "Begin with the dreams you had before life took over," she suggested. "What did you want to be when you were a kid? What passions did you sacrifice along the way?" The question tumbled out with an earnestness that surprised even her. He chuckled, but it was tinged with regret. "Funny enough, I wanted to be a writer. I dreamed of creating stories, adventures where the underdog triumphs. But life happened. I dove into the military life, thinking it was what my father wanted, what was expected of me." "Did you ever write?" Emma probed, sensing an opening into deeper reflections. "Not since I was young. I wrote a few short stories, but I always dismissed them. That's not a career. It felt trivial. I didn't want to be perceived as weak for pursuing something so creative. He paused, a sad smile crossing his lips. It's ironic, isn't it? The things we dismiss as weaknesses can sometimes be our greatest strengths. Emma leaned back slightly, absorbing his admission. Maybe those stories are still inside you. What if you wrote about not just your experiences, but our experiences? What we're going through together? I don't think my voice matters anymore, Emma, he replied softly, the moment soon punctuated by an air of defeat. It's been so long. That's exactly why it matters, she countered fiercely, feeling the surge of conviction. It's time for us to break the silence, to reclaim those lost pieces of ourselves. She was no longer just a daughter seeking clarity. She was an advocate for change, not only in her life but in his. Her father looked at her, really looked, then nodded slowly. Okay, let me try. I've kept my voice quiet for so long. It's a challenge I didn't expect. But, for you, I will. Emma's heart raced with the thrill of possibility. And I'll be here, guiding you if you need. I want to hear your stories. That feeling of shared risk propelled her forward, igniting a fire within her core. They were about to embark on a journey that promised not just revelation, but healing. But you know this isn't just about me, right? He added, his brow knitted tight. You've got your struggles too. What about those fears you mentioned? It's been hard for me too, finding my voice when I've been told to stay quiet. I've carried my own burdens, fear of failure, the tension with my peers. But I sense it's time to face those, just like we face yours. Emma felt the heat of those unshared words gathering within her, craving release as the moment lingered. With a shared understanding, they simultaneously acknowledged the journey ahead, a path entwined with pain but paved with hope. Emma's confidence mingled with her father's newfound resolve, creating an invisible bond that could no longer be denied. The silence that had once loomed over them transformed into a promise. It was a mutual commitment to confront the narratives they had both been afraid to face. A new discussion began, uncovering fears rooted in identity and acceptance, entwining their lives in unexpected ways. Yet as they navigated deeper truths, Emma felt a weight pressing on her soul, a growing suspicion that this wasn't just about revealing past wounds, but also challenging unseen threats in her present. Were those adversities not just old scars, but new ones still forming? The kitchen, once a site of tension, became alive with discussion, but deeper challenges loomed on the horizon. Emma took a moment, swallowing the words that threatened to spill over. What were the implications of all this honesty? How would others perceive their unveiling, and how would they deal with the external judgments that waited just beyond their front door? As they began to map out the contours of their story, a question lingered in Emma's mind, rich with foreboding. Could facing their past unleash unforeseen forces, ones they couldn't easily reconcile? As the sun descended beyond the horizon, Emma and her father embarked on a journey of truth, each sentence spoken a step taken, deeper into the fabric of their intertwined lives. With the air thick with potential, they shared their experiences like fragile threads, weaving a tapestry of vulnerability that had previously been hidden in darkness. Do you ever think about those times when we avoided each other emotionally? Emma ventured, her voice steady but filled with curiosity. It felt like we were both carrying heavy suitcases, afraid to open them. Her father nodded, a solemn expression crossing his face. Yes, and in doing so we isolated one another more. I thought that if I kept it together, it would protect you. But it only created barriers. Emma recognized the significance of this revelation, each word from her father reverberating with a sense of catharsis. Maybe we mistook silence for strength, she suggested, feeling emboldened. But true strength lies in honesty, doesn't it? In that moment, inspiration surged. It was no longer about one more brave conversation. It was about laying the groundwork for ongoing dialogue, a commitment to transparency in their relationship moving forward. They were not just sharing the load of their pasts anymore. They were also reclaiming the present. "What if we made this a regular practice?" Emma proposed, her excitement palpable. "A weekly check-in where we openly talk about our fears, our triumphs, our setbacks. This could become a chance for both of us to grow." A smile broke through Mike's more solemn exterior. "I'd like that. It's time we establish a new pattern, a place where vulnerability isn't just accepted, it's celebrated." Emma's heart raced with the possibility. They were not merely skimming the surface anymore. They were diving into the depths of emotional engagement that had long taunted them from the shadows. The framework of their relationship was evolving, brick by brick, conversation by conversation. "I realize now that I can't ask you to be vulnerable unless I demonstrate it myself," her father added, his voice firm yet soft. "I've spent so long hiding behind my past, convinced it was better for you. But it wasn't. I need to show you that it's okay to struggle, that true heroes embrace their vulnerabilities." His willingness to confront his own fears filled Emma with renewed confidence. "And I need you to see that I don't want to just be strong. I want to be authentic, the real me, and that includes the times I stumble." With that understanding, an invisible yet robust connection blossomed between them. It wasn't just about healing their fractured past. It was about forging a vibrant new path filled with transparency, courage, and love. In the weeks that followed, their check-ins became much-awaited sessions of discovery. They transitioned from discussing past grievances to sharing their daily triumphs and setbacks, Mike revealing his struggles with confronting his own fear of insignificance, while Emma recounted the small victories that lifted her spirits amid bullying at school. Slowly but surely, the weight of their secrets diminished. Emma found a space not just to voice her challenges, but also to celebrate her achievements in robotics and sports, feeling lighter with every validation shared between them. Even the external world, once a source of pain, began to shift. With her father's lessons flooding her mind and encouraging her resilience, Emma boldly showcased her advancements in STEM. She received accolades at school for her projects, earning admiration not just for her skills, but for inspiring others. As her confidence flourished, the taunts faded, replaced by the new narrative she had crafted through determination and open dialogue. Mike, too, experienced a renaissance. By sharing his story, he engaged with peers who were astonished by his experiences and his willingness to confront his past. He began blogging about navigating the emotional histories that shaped him while empowering others to embrace their vulnerabilities openly. On a Friday evening, after a particularly enriching check-in, Emma approached her father, a grin plastered across her face. "I think we've come a long way, Dad. Thank you for sharing your truths with me." He chuckled softly. "Thank you for pushing me into the light. It hasn't been easy, but it's been necessary. Look at how far we've come." As they sat together, a sense of fulfillment enveloped them. They had collectively hiked through the mountains of their struggles, only to find themselves sculpting a new landscape, one built on recognition, empathy, and mutual trust. Their bond could withstand future storms, for they understood that true strength derived from transparency rather than pretense. That evening, Emma paused deeply, reflecting on the journey ahead. It was no longer about unearthing painful memories. It was about building an enriched life laden with new skills, newfound love, and unshakable connection. The path forward would be one that continuously invited discovery, acceptance of imperfections, and recognition of their shared humanity. As the first stars began painting the dusk sky, Emma felt a surge of gratitude rise within her, a well-deserved achievement not for a singular victory, but for the artistic mosaic of their evolving relationship, boldly redefining what it meant to be family. And just like that, they had transformed. They were no longer burdens hiding in quiet desperation. Instead, they were courageous souls soaring into the limitless potential that awaited, an exhilarating journey neither would ever take alone again. Now it's your turn. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support counted in moments like this. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending because your input matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this inspiring conclusion. Show the power of your support because you need to be part of this amazing journey.